So let us start working on the home screen or the main screen of the app. So let us go to routes, and here I want us to create another route which I'm gonna call main. So its path is main and main.name, and it's going to return main screen. So I want us to now create this main screen. So inside these features, I'm going to create another file, another folder, which I'm gonna call user management for lack of a better name. And it's going to be a stateful widget called main screen. So this screen is going to have several tabs. So here I'm going to extend with single ticker provider state mixin. I'm going to have a late tab controller. So we are going to need to override init state and initialize our tab controller, okay, with a length of 4. So we are going to have 4 tabs at the bottom, and add the property vsync and pass this. Also, of course, since it's a tab controller, we are going to need to dispose it. So override on dispose and dispose the tab controller. So this is the main screen. The main screen is going to eventually look like this. And if like we click here, view all doctors, it should direct us to these doctors here. But also if we just tap on these doctors without like clicking on here, it is also going to take us to the doctors. Here in the build, we are of course going to return a scaffold, but of course we need the current index. We need to update the tab controller with the current index. Here in the presentation, I'm going to create a folder, providers, and inside here I'm going to create a new file. And the file, I'm going to call it current tab provider, And this current tab provider is going to be a simple state notifier class. So current tab notifier extends state notifier. And the state notifier, you have to provide the type. For this, just an integer, and you have to give the initial value, and you use this with the initializer list. So void set tab. So here we are going to pass int new value, and now we update the state to the new value like that. So after that, we need to create a state notifier provider, okay, and I'm going to call this state notifier provider, I'm going to call it current tab notifier provider. And here you need to pass first of all the class at the top, so the current tab notifier, and also you pass the type, okay, and then you return, we're going to return the current tab notifier like that. Okay, now with that, we can come here in the build method and say final current index is going to be ref.watch the current tab notifier provider like that. We are going to change this from a stateful widget to a consumer stateful widget, and therefore we need to change this from state to consumer state like that. And now we need to import Riverpod to solve the errors like that. So now we need to update our tab controller dot index. There it's equals to now the current index like that. Now inside the scaffold, so in the body, we now want to create a tab bar view. The children is going to be a const list of children. But this tab bar view, it needs a controller, and the controller is our tab controller. So here we are going to need a home screen, a doctor screen, a bookings, and also a chat screen. We're going to create now a bottom navigation bar. And I've created the bottom navigation bar. So ref.read current tab notifier dot set tab to the new value. So that this is going to update the current tab so that we can show the different screens. So each of these screens, okay. Since here at the top we see that the length of this tab controller has to be 4, and we have 4 items here. So it's only fitting that we have 4 bottom navigation bar items here. So the first one is for home, also for doctors, bookings, and also for chats. So as you can see, the home, the doctors, the bookings, and the chat. Okay. So that is what is happening here. So let me just start with creating a home screen. And the home screen is going to be a consumer widget. And I want to import material.dat file. And of course, I'm going to import Flutter Riverpod. So for now, I'm going to just return a scaffold. And I'm going to set an app bar here. I'm going to do the same for doctor screen. So here I can just close this and I'm going to import it here. So let me also create a doctor screen. So let me go back to home screen and I'm going to import the doctor screen. So I want us now to create this booking screen. So for that, I'm going to go to features and I'm going to create a new package, which I'm going to call bookings. And inside bookings, now I'm going to create the folders like I did earlier. So inside the screens, we are going to now to create the booking screen. And it's going to be a consumer stateful widget. So let me import Riverpod. And I'm also going to import material.dat file. So let me go back to main screen and I'm going to import this, to import the booking screen like that. And finally, I'm going to create yet another folder in the features, which I'm going to call chat. And inside the chat, I'm going to create yet another folders. Chat screen. So if I go to main screen once again, I can import the chat screen. And now we no longer have the errors. Let me run the application once again. So if I go to routes, here I need to import main screen like that. Let me run the app again. Since we are already logged in, we have not been taken to the sign-in screen or the onboarding screen. We have been directed directly to the main screen. And as you can see here, if I click on doctors, it updates automatically. We get taken to doctors. If I click on bookings, you go to bookings. And if I click on chat, we are going to go to chats. Fantastic. Okay, now we are done with the main screen. I'm just going to close that. Let us now start working on the home screen. So inside the app bar, we can now create actions. So here in the actions are the icons that appear here in this site. So I want us to show a container and use that container to load the profile image of the logged in user. Okay. So since we are loading that data automatically from Firebase, I want us to create methods on load that information. And therefore, inside the user management and inside of data, I'm going to create a file called users repository. So class users repository. So final Firebase Firestore. So here I'm gonna create the constructor. And here now we are gonna create a method to load user information. And this is the method to load the user information by passing the user ID. And now we are going to go to the firestore.collection users the user ID. So remember the information was saved under each user ID. Okay. And then you are going to get that information. We are also going to check if the user is a doctor. We return doctor.fromMap. Okay. Else we return AppUser.fromMap. We can now go back to home. And now here I want us now to load that information. And we can do that with a future builder or a stream builder. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a widget that is going to handle most of that for us. And also because we are going to need to reuse that functionality in many places. So I'm going to go to common widgets and I'm going to create a widget, a file that I'm going to call a sync value widget. Okay. And I'm going to implement it here. So this is a sync value widget of type T, which is a stateless widget, okay? And it will get a value and a function that returns a widget, which we call data. Okay, so let me go back to the home screen. And now here in the child, we are gonna use now the async value widget. So this async value widget, remember it's of type T. So here I'm gonna pass app user and I'm gonna import the app user. So the value and the data, now we need that. So I'm gonna go to the build method here. And to load user information, as you can see here, we need to pass user ID. So we first of all need to get the user ID. So final user ID is equals to ref.watch current user provider dot UID, like that. And then we can now get user data. So final user data async value equals to ref.watch. So load user information provider passing the user ID. But remember, we did not create the provider for that. So I'm gonna come here at the bottom, and first of all, I'm gonna create the provider for user repository and also for this method here. And here we are. So this is the one for loading the user information and also for returning the user's repository. So let me run the build. So here, before I run the build runner, I'm gonna need to add part users repository.g.dat. So let me now run the build runner. Here now the value here is going to be user data async value. And the data we are gonna get user data. Inside here, now we can return the widget that we want. For this case, we are going to return a circle avatar, and which has a background image, a network image, and the network image is going to be user data dot image URL, like that. Okay, so if I save that, and if the app starts once again, and again, as you can see, eventually it's going to show the profile image of the current logged in user, like that. Fantastic. So now what I need to do now is now how to design this. First of all, your upcoming booking, we are going to show this as well. Also, we are going to show this list of doctor specialties and the nearby doctors. So to do that, so let me now get out of the app bar, but inside the scaffold, we are going to now have the body. So everything is going to be centered. So I'm going to have a center widget with the child. So the child is going to be a single child scroll view, and the child of the single child scroll view is going to be a column. And the column, of course, it has children. So the first child of this column is just going to be a text that says your upcoming booking with the font style of italic. And then we are going to load some bookings. The booking that is soonest is going to be displayed with this container here. Okay. But for now, what we are gonna do, we are just gonna return a container that says no upcoming booking for now. Add a container here. Because we've not even gotten to the point where we can add our bookings, for now, we are just gonna add something like that, okay? Just for now. After that container, I want to add some space of 15 pixels. And then now, I want us to work on this doctor specialty widget here. Okay, here in the user management, I'm going to go to widgets. I'm going to create a new file, which I'm gonna call a doctor specialty widget, like that. And here now, this is going to be a consumer widget, which I'm gonna call doctor specialty widget, and I'm gonna import material.dat, like that. So inside here, first of all, as you can see, it's going to load the different kind of specialties, okay? And as you can remember from the beginning, we created this specialization list. So this provider that gives us a list of all specializations. So here in the build method, first of all, I want us to get that list. I can maybe add specialization list so that we can be able to know it's an actual list. Pass that there. Here in the authentication, we're going to need to make a change. So we have a new error here. Is going to be a specialization list provider. Okay. So going back to our specialty widget here. So we have that list. So here we are going to return we are going to need a padding edge insets dot symmetric, add a horizontal padding of 10 pixels, and the child is going to be a column. Column has children. So as you can see here, it's going to be a row with that and also this. So let us first of all work on the row. So the row is going to have a text that says doctor specialty, and then it's going to have an elevated button that says see all at the end. Okay. So here, let me go here in the main screen, in the home screen, and I want to import this widget so that we can see what we are doing. Now, if I save that, so you can see now we have that. Let us work on displaying these ones outside that row. We are gonna have a sized box which has a height of size config dot get proportionate height. I'm gonna give it a height of 120, and I'm gonna give it a child. A child is going to be a list view builder. The item builder takes a context and an index, and which also has item count. So item count is going to be list of specializations dot length. Nice. All right. Now here in the item builder, first of all, I want us to change the scroll direction to axis dot horizontal because we want them to appear horizontally. Now inside the item builder, first of all, we can get the specialization. So specialization equals to the list of specializations at the current index, like that. And now we can create a map. So as you can see now, I have created this map, the specialization icons, so that each and every one of those specialization has a different kind of icon. Okay, so for eyes is that, for ears that, for nose that, for teeth that, and for limbs that. And now we can have the icon, final icon, is going to be a specialization icon. We now pass the specialization. And now, since we are inside the item builder, we are going to return a column with now this container with the icon here and also the text eyes. Okay, so let me do that. As you can see now, I decided to give it a padding, and a padding is important because we need this space around that. Padding of 10. So the container has a height of 60 and a width of 60. The shape is circle. We have a color of main color, okay, and our opacity of 0.2. Now the icon, and we give a color of main color, okay. And now we are going to need a text, the specialization itself, okay, and give it a color of black like that. Now if I save that and if I hot reload, so if I hot reload, as you can see, we get that, and we can scroll like this because now this is a list view builder. It gives us scrolling capabilities. So that is the doctor specialty. Let me go back to the home screen once again. First of all, I'm going to add a size box here to give some space. We need to work on this, displaying these nearby doctors here. Okay, so we need to work on this. We are going to create a widget, which I'm going to call nearby doctors widget. So I'm going to come here to widgets. I'm going to create a new .dat file, and I'm going to call it nearby doctors widget, like that. So here in the home screen, let me just import that. And I'm also going to add some spacing at the bottom. First of all, we need to display this, okay, and this nearby doctors text, and also this button here. So the first child is of course going to be a row, like the one that I did at the top there. So it's going to be nearby doctors. And remember when I said that we can tap on this button to take the tab from 0 to 1. So to navigate to doctors here. And that is exactly what we do here. So ref.read current tab notifier provider.notifier.set tab, and then you pass 1. And we can pass 1 because this is 0, 1, 2, 3. As you know, lists start from 0, not from 1. When I save that, as you can see, that appears. And now we need now to work on this part here. Okay. So, and for that, so first of all, remember, if I go to Firebase, remember I was forced to use the Firebase project that was already existing. And in this project, I had already created many doctors. So I'd advise you to like register many doctors and give them their locations and things like that. So that you can have a list of doctors here before you continue, because now I'm going to display the doctors that I already have in the app. So after this row here, but inside the column, I'm going to have to add a sized box, and I'm going to give it a height of size config, get proportionate height, 220 for this one. And I'm going to add a child. Here we are going to use the async value widget for displaying the doctors. Okay. So we are going to go to users repository. And you can see here, this one was for loading user information. But I want us to now create one for loading the doctors in the app. Okay. So, and I'm going to do just that for right now. So this is a method called load doctors. And when loading these doctors, we are going to pass specialization. Okay. We are going to pass specialization because this method, we are going to use it more inside the doctors page. So when we go to these doctors, we are going to use this more, and you are going to see why I passed the specialization here. And now, of course, we are going to go to the users and query by the type. So we want the type to be equal to doctor. Okay. So we want to filter the users that have the type doctor here. Okay. So that is what is happening here. So we want them, first of all, to be doctors, and also specialization to be equal to the specialization that we are going to pass. Okay. And then we return that. Again, it's a list of doctors, so that we have to convert all of this back to a list. Okay. So that is what is happening in this method. Again, you can pause if you want to get that. And also, if you want all the source code, be sure to click the link in the description box below. I can go back to nearby doctors, and inside here now, we should now load the doctors in the app. In case we get an error loading the doctors, I want to get that error. So async value doctors provider, and let me go back to the users repository once again. And actually, I forgot, we need to create a method that is eventually going to be used to create the provider for this method. Okay. And here it is. So load doctors. So we are going to pass specialization. So it is going to be a family. And therefore, we are going to return user repository.load doctors passing the specialization. Okay. And I can run the build runner again. And so with that, we have created the provider that we are going to need to load the doctors like that. And now I need to import this. Okay. And also import this here like that. So now I need to now load the list of doctors. So list, and we pass an empty string that right there. So we can come down here. So this sized box is going to have a child, and the child is going to be a sync value widget. And this is going to be type list of doctor like that. So the value here is going to be list of doctors async value, and the data is going to be the doctors. Okay. And now here we can now return the widget that we want. So first of all, we are going to check if doctors dot is empty. So if it's empty, I want us to show a center widget that has a child of text but says no doctors. So else, you are going to show a list view builder, and it has an item count. So item count is the doctors dot length, and the item builder, of course, it has the context. It takes the context and the index. So we can get a doctor by saying doctor is equals to doctors at the current index. And this list view builder, remember, we want it to have a scroll direction of horizontal. So we can say scroll direction. So, inside the list view builder, we can say scroll direction to be axis dot horizontal, because by default is scroll direction is vertical, and therefore here we are going to return a doctor item widget, and we are going to pass the doctor. Okay, so we are going to pass this doctor inside the doctor item widget. And now I want us to go to the widgets once again, and I want us to create yet another file, which I'm gonna call doctor item widget. So this is going to be a consumer widget. Now let me import it first. Final doctor, and since it is a required named parameter, you can come here and say required this doctor, like that. Nice. All right, so as you can remember here, we need to load these doctors, but we also need to load the distance between us and the doctors. Okay, so to do that, first of all, here we are going to need to get the user ID, the current user ID, and also load the information. So now we are going to need to return a container, okay, that has a column, and the first element of that column is going to be this image, then the text, their specialization, their ratings, and also the distance here at the bottom. And as you can see, I have done exactly that. So it's a container. So that this container has a box shadow here, but the child is a column. So the first element of this column is this image, okay? And so the text is the doctor.name, okay? Of course, the image is the doctor.image URL. The text is the image.name, as you can see here. So this is how it should be. And also the specialization is the teeth, for example, or eyes or ears, okay? So of course, we now have a row of rating stars widget that I'm going to create, okay? And also the distance. So the distance here, as you can see, first of all, it's a row and has an icon here, which is called social distance, okay? And now we are going to calculate the distance between the where we are and that particular doctor. And to do that, I created this calculated distance. And for that, first of all, what we are going to need is that we are going to go to the pubspec.yaml file, and we are going to add a package, the Geolocator package. Okay. So here you are going to add the Geolocator package. So this is going to help us calculate the distance between our location and the doctor's location, because remember, we saved the latitude and longitudes of both the app user and also the doctor. So I'm going to run pubget to get the latest dependencies. Now we have that. So inside the widgets here, I'm going to create another file, which I'm going to call calculate distance. So new that file, calculate distance. And inside the calculate distance, here now I'm going to create a method to calculate the distance between 2 points using latitude and longitude. So, and here is the method, calculate distance. It's going to take my latitude and my longitude, and the doctor's latitude and the doctor's longitude. And then we are going to calculate the distance using the Geolocator package. So Geolocator, let me import that, dot distance between, so my latitude and my longitude, and the doctor's latitude and the doctor's longitude. And then that distance is usually returned in meters, and therefore I divide that distance by 1,000 to get it in kilometers. So if I go back to doctor item widget, I can now hover over here, and I'm going to import that. So it's going to take the user data.latitude and then my longitude, also this doctor's latitude, and also the current doctor's longitude, like that. So finally, let us create these rating stars. So I can come here and create a new widget, which I'm gonna call rating stars. So now this is the rating stars widget. So I'm going to save that. So if I go back and go to doctor item, and I'm going to import this, Now we no longer have that error. Let me hot restart instead. Now, as you can see, it has loaded the information and the distance, okay?